community stood the main house, a castle that served as both a symbol of governmental stability and the cultural center of the region. Stone ramparts reminiscent of ancient fortresses surrounded the main house. The people of the area, as well as their lords' ancestors, had been comfortably settled there since the 10th century, and the present ruler was a country squire in the best tradition, who spread culture among his subjects and was at all times prepared to protect his territory with his life. At the same time, however, he carefully avoided any serious involvement in the wars and feuds of his fellow lords in other districts. In short, it was a peaceful fief, governed in an enlightened manner. Here, one saw no trace of depravity or degeneracy associated with the footloose samurai. It was quite unlike Nara, where ancient temples celebrated in history and folklore were being left to go to seed. Disruptive elements simply were not permitted to enter into the life of this community. The setting itself militated against ugliness. The mountains in the Kasagi range were no less strikingly beautiful at eventide than at sunrise, and the water was pure and clean, ideal water, it was said, for making tea. The plum blossoms of the Sakiyise were nearby, and the nightingales sang from the season of the melting snow to that of the thunderstorms, their tones as crystal clear as the waters of the mountain streams. A poet once wrote that in a place where a hero is born, the mountains and the rivers are fresh and clean. If no hero had been born in the Koyagyu Valley, the poet's words would have been empty. But this was indeed a birthplace of heroes. No better proof could be offered than the lords of Koyagyu themselves. In this great house, even the retainers were men of nobility. Many had come from the rice fields, distinguished themselves in battle, and gone on to become loyal and competent aides. All right, so a few chapters back, when we met one of the retainers, where Jotaro and Otsu, they run into Shota, one of the main retainers of the Koyagyu Valley. Jotaro is impressed by his appearance. So here we go. Let's read on. Musashi is now at the castle looking for a way in. From the folded clothing on the floor of the anteroom, Musashi knew there were other people in the bath. He took off his own clothes and opened the door in a steamy bathroom. There were three men talking jovially, but catching sight of his brawny body, they stopped as though a foreign element had been introduced into their midst. Musashi slipped into the communal bath with a content sigh, his 6-foot frame causing the hot water to overflow. For some reason, this startled the three men, and one of them looked straight at Musashi, who had leaned his head against the edge of the pool and closed his eyes. Gradually, they took up their conversation where they had left off. They were washing themselves outside the pool. The skin on their backs was white and their muscles plain. They were apparently city people, for their manner of speech was polished and urbane. What was his name? The samurai from the house of Koyagyu? I think he said it was Shota Kazibone. If Lord Koyagyu sends a retainer to convey a refusal to a match, he can't be as good as he's said to be. According to Shota, Sheki Shusai retired and never fights anyone anymore. Do you suppose that's the truth, or was he just making it up? Oh, I don't think it's true. It's much more likely that when he heard the second son of the house of Yoshioka was challenging him, he decided to play it safe. Well, he was tactful at least, sending fruit and saying he hoped we'd enjoy our stopover. Yoshioka? Musashi lifted his head and opened his eyes. Having overheard someone mention Densensharo's trip to Isles while he was at the Yoshioka school, Musashi assumed that the three men were on their way back to Kyoto. One of them must be Densensharo. Which one? I don't have much luck in baths, thought Musashi ruefully. First Osugi tricked me into taking a bath, and now again, with no clothes on, I run into one of the Yoshiokas. He's bound to have heard of what happened at the school. If he knew my name was Miyamoto, he'd be out the door and back with his sword in no time. But the three paid him no attention. To judge from their talk, as soon as they had arrived, they had sent a letter to the house of Koyagyu. Apparently, Sheki Shusai had some connection with the Yoshioka Kempo back in the days when Kempo was tutor to the shoguns. No doubt because of this, Sheki Shusai could not let Kempo's son go away without acknowledging his letter and had therefore sent Shota to pay a courtesy call at the inn. In response to this, the best these city youths could say was that Sheki Shusai was tactful, that he had decided to play it safe, and that he couldn't be as good as he said to be. They seemed exceedingly satisfied with themselves, but Musashi thought them ridiculous. In contrast to what he had seen of the Koyagyu castle and the inviable state of the area's inhabitants, they appeared to have nothing better to offer than clever conversation. It reminded him of a saying about the frog at the bottom of the well, unable to see what was going on in the outside world. Sometimes he was thinking it works the other way around. These pampered young sons of Kyoto were in a position to see what was happening at the center of things and to know what was going on everywhere. But it would not have occurred to them that while they were watching the great open sea, somewhere else at the bottom of the deep well, a frog was steadily growing larger and stronger. Here in Koyagyu, well away from the country's political and economic center, sturdy samurai had for decades been leading a healthy rural life, preserving the ancient virtues, correcting their weak points, and growing in stature. With the passage of time, Koyagyu had produced Yagyu Minayoshi, a great master of the martial arts, and his son, Lord Minonori, a Tajima, whose prowess had been recognized by Ieyasu himself. And there were also Minayoshi's older sons, Gorozomion and Toshikatsu, famous throughout the land for their bravery, and his grandson, Hyoge Toshitoshi, whose prodigious feats had earned him a high-paid position under the renowned general Kato Kiyomasa of Aigo. In fame and prestige, the House of Yagyu did not rank with the House of Yoshioka, but in terms of ability, the difference was a thing of the past. Densen Sharo and his companions were blind to their arrogance. Musashi, nevertheless, felt a little sorry for them. He went over to a corner where the water was piped into the room. Undoing his headband, he seized a handful of clay and began scrubbing his scalp. For the first time in many weeks, he treated himself to the luxury of a good shampoo. In the meantime, the men of Kyoto were finishing their bath. Ah, that felt good. Indeed it did. Now why don't we have some girls in to pour our sake for us? Yeah. Again, that tells you the difference between the countryside, the men that are flourishing, the tradition, the ancient wisdom that they have over there, while in the city everything's degenerating. You know, these guys, the Yoshioka men, all they want to do is drink alcohol, imbibe in their flesh with women, and the men of the Yagyu Valley are steeped in tradition, in reading, in their culture, disseminating what they know down to the people. The culture is an important thing. The temples, the way of life, preserving everything, becoming stronger, while the Yoshioka kids are just riding the fame and glory of their past. They lost the way. And here Musashi is trying to learn the way from the Yagyu. Peace, everybody. Be well.